Welcome to the podcast that questions everything, from conspiracies to philosophy, from science to religion. We will be looking at the construct of the illusion, and as always, we will question everything. Hello and welcome to another episode of Everything is an Illusion, the podcast where we question everything. I'm your host Rob Wallace, and today's episode, exciting episode, is on writing. The classic is they say everyone has a book in them. So we're going to look at how easy is it to write a book, how can you motivate yourself to write a book, and look at the sort of everything from getting yourself motivated to the tools that can help you, etc., etc. So, the first thing is to start. Now, I suppose the hardest thing with any new project is to start. It really is the beginning of the project, but it's also, more importantly, it's the defining thing which channels your intent to make that thing happen, be it whatever creative project. The start is the key, and it really is all that you have to do. So you just need to start. So once you've started, be that deciding that you're going to write a book, be that buying some equipment, be that deciding what kind of book it is you're going to write, or whatever creative project, but the fact is, you defining that you are going to start is all you really need to do to start. The rest is like a snowball effect. It will gain momentum, and at times it will, like a snowball, crumble and disappear, or it will turn into an avalanche. But I've got some tips and tricks to keep it rolling. So I suppose the first thing is you've got to really define like what it is that you're going to write. Now, if you're a big fan of fantasy and sci-fi, or you're a big fan of documentaries or chemistry or chocolate biscuits, whatever it is, you know, passion translates best into big projects, and writing a book is a big project. Don't think it's not a big project. It is a big project. It takes a lot of time, a lot of commitment, and that's the reality. Now, we're not sugarcoating anything. It's a big project, but you can do it. That's the key thing. So your passion is the thing which will carry you through, because you're not going to start writing today and finish your book by tomorrow. It's going to take a bit of time to, whatever it is, from say a 3 or 4 months to get your first draft to 15 years to get your first draft. It just depends on the project, the passion, the ideas, the genre, etc. So the first thing is you've got to define what it is you're going to write. Are you going to write non-fiction? So are you going to write a book on health, like I did, Health Made Simple? And you check that out at healthmadesimple.info. Or are you going to write a book on how to do bookkeeping for new businesses, or how to create art, first time drawers? Or is it going to be a romantic comedy genre novel, or an epic sci-fi space drama? Whatever it is, you first need to define it. You have to have an idea of what you're going to write. The next thing you need to do, and this is Big Rob's tips on writing, the next thing I think you need to do is to look at the genre that you're going to write in. Who's the pioneers of the genre? Who are the greats of the genre? Who's the current bestsellers of the genre? What style of writing is kind of associated with the genre? Is it like a flowery descriptive, or is it straight to the point? Is there lots of graphics, be it a self-help kind of book? Is there lots of graphics? Is the length of the book, word count, these sort of things are all there, easily researched via Google, and you can find out who these authors are, what the word count is, what the style, what the genre, and from there you can start to build a blueprint. For instance, a self-help book, you're looking at, say, 30 to 40,000 words. A fantasy novel for a first-time publication, anything up to 80,000 words. A rom-com fantasy, or chick lit fantasy, 50 to 70,000 words. It'd be, in that ballpark for your first novel. And then it gives you an idea of what you're aiming for. So now you know the sort of general size of the project, like who's successful, what sort of numbers they maybe sell, how many sci-fi books are sold each year, how many romantic comedies are sold each year, who's the biggest selling author. So you're getting that kind of research information, you're building your picture of the world that you're about to enter, because soon, if you've got the vision and you have the belief and you've got the passion and you're willing to start, you should be saying to yourself, I'm going to have my book on that shelf next to that person. It's going to be displayed in the bookstore next to the genre great, or the current genre leaders, etc., etc., all bound in a beautiful cover, etc. So defining what style, who your favourite author is, all that sort of good stuff. Now you need to research, let's say, the market, research. The research is key as to if you're doing a space opera, and you have a sci-fi space opera, and you have a really great idea about, just say, vampires on Mars, and you research that and you find out that there's actually about 100 books on vampires from Mars. Some author has already done a huge series and it wasn't too successful. So what was not successful about his ideas? Maybe read the book, think about, or alternatively, don't read the book. So I suppose there's two options there. If you read the book, you may get some of their ideas imprinting on your ideas, which is never good. And then you might get depressed at that sort of part of the market, but at the same time you may see that the ideas that they had were very different. Even though it's set on Mars and as vampires, it could be, extremely different. So in every respect, the writing style through to the ideas. So now that you've got your passion, your dedication to start, your research, you need to develop your own ideas. Plagiarism is not an option when creating new content. When you're writing, you want it to be original, you want it to be your own ideas. A really good way of doing this is a mind map. So simply just put your book, or a picture, or the word in the book, like a spider diagram or a mind map. You start mapping out, so what's the start of my book, what's it about, what's the idea, and then, what's the main character, what's the main theme, is there anything that I am trying to say within the book. So for instance, with Health Made Simple, the key thing for me was most books, most fads, most TV kind of celebrities talking about food and health, we're all trying to sell something. We're all in an industry that was self-perpetuating. The sickness industry, i.e. putting forward information that kept people sick and kept people in that industry, when the reality is all you have to do is understand how the body works, and you can generally be quite healthy if you take responsibility for yourself and responsibility for the input, i.e. the breathing, the water, the exercise, etc., etc., to get the output that you require, which is high quality health and a standard of living. So that was my initial premise. And then, so how do I go about that? Well, I have these ideas: breathing, water, food, sort of nutrition, exercise, etc. So I had to go and research all of the different things so that my information was accurate, my information was correct, and the ideas that I had were validated through good quality research. And through that came a structure of how I built the book. So be it a fantasy book or a non-fiction book, good quality research throughout will allow you to create a fantastic mind map or a fantastic chart of your ideas about how you're going to roll it out. Now, don't be disgruntled if your ideas are just as simple as I want to write a book on health, or I have a crazy mind vampire book set in Boston. If that's all you've got, that's all you've got. It will come if you start to write. Don't spend all your time doing the research, getting all these ideas and research into an inch of your life, because you will never start the project. And if you never start the project, you'll never finish the project. If you have even just that, the seed, mind vampires in Boston, just go for it. Start writing. Get that first few pages out, and as the first few pages come out, as your mind opens and converts into the pen, different ideas will come, which will expand your mind map, will expand your characters, your sets, your themes, your ideas, and before you know it, you'll be like, okay, so it started as mind vampires in Boston, but the mind vampires, they're actually an underground network of ancient families that go far beyond Boston. And how does their mind vampire techniques work? What is the special powers of these particular vampires? What's the family structure? How do they eat? What's their purpose? Who's their enemy? And before you know it, you're building who's the lead character, what's the main plot, what's the theme, and you're 20 pages in, you're 30 pages in, you're 40 pages in. So the key is to get your ideas and to mind map, or whoever you like to get your ideas, that you may be a lister, writing a list of key characters, key locations, key themes to explore. Or you can do it via a mind map diagram, but the key is to get it done, to get it on paper, or if you're a computer user, use computer or voice commands. So the way I look at myself and the way I write, so I'm currently writing 3 books. So the first book, Health Made Simple, it's been published for years. I'm writing another book, a media book, and the third book is I'm writing a sort of epic fantasy adventure. Now, the epic fantasy adventure I've been actually writing for 15 years. You got that right, 15 years. I'm 60,000 words in, and I'm not a natural writer by any means. My writing's actually pretty, it was for many years really quite bad. And at high school, I was really, English was my worst subject. I was a maths, physics, technology kind of guy. I was not an English, I didn't enjoy the course. I didn't enjoy trying to explain things. I wasn't confident in writing. But I've kind of forced myself to write because I have ideas. I'm passionate about my ideas. So I force myself to write. And like any other skill, you get better the more you do. And a prime example of that is, it was my weakest skill at school. And you know, uh, I'm still not brilliant with grammar or spelling, but I can now get information out of my head and write it coherently so people can understand. And it will only get better as I go forward. So a wee analogy of how I describe writing is a boxing bag. So I'm the sort of person who goes to a gym and hits the boxing bag 1,000 times until they're knackered, until they've no breath left, and then they leave the gym. There's no technique. I've not learnt how to punch like a boxer. I've not learnt the footwork. I've not learnt proper nutrition or fitness conditioning. Any of these kind of things which will make my boxing using the bag so much better. The technique, the crispness, conservation of movement, being able to block, being able to move, using my feet to dance out the way of the bag. I am literally going at the word processor and bashing out words, as many as I can. I'm just getting that flow. Then I go back and I refine what I write. Now, as I've been writing for a number of years, I'm now starting to learn how to throw the punch, how to move out the way, how to use the footwork, how to use the nutrition. And what I'm saying is I'm now starting to think about character development. I'm now starting to think about, you know, the location that the reader is reading that. I've got to describe that whole world. I've got to bring a warmth to my characters, or a depth to my characters. The kind of language that I use, all these kind of things I am learning as I go. But the key thing is, I started and I'm writing, and I will finish this book as I finish my first book, just through sheer tenacity and passion for what I'm doing. Whereas there's a lot of people that will never start, so they'll never finish. And that is the key, starting. Okay, so even if it is the case where you start off as like a boxer, just hitting the bag like a crazy man, or if you're the sort of person who likes to learn the finesse, the skill, the technique as you go along, whatever style you like, you go for. But the key is to start just right. Now, as you start writing, there is lots of software, lots of websites, social media groups, etc. to help you along the way. So for software, the software I use is a thing called Scrivener, which is fantastic for putting all of your information in one place. So it's almost like the Explorer on Windows, like a file management, but it's all within the one program. So you can write the first chapter, the next chapter, the next chapter, and everything is indexed the way that you want it on the left hand side. You don't have to leave the program to open a new document, to bring in a new document, and you can collate pictures, documents, etc., all in the one program. It's a really, really good bit of software for large verbal projects. So large word projects, be it a dissertation, be it a book, a novel, non-fiction, whatever. Scrivener, a really fantastic tool, has made my workflow so much easier. And the good thing is you can buy one copy and put it on a number of computers. So I have that on my laptop and my desktop. There's loads of websites, and Facebook is really good. There's a lot of good groups, writers groups, where there's a lot of good graphics, and key tips get put up daily, and you read them and you think, yes, that's okay. There's a bit of technique, there's a bit of some ideas. Obviously there's loads of books as well, you know, some fantastic books on writing, and specific to your genre as well, be it documentary, be it sci-fi, be it chick lit. There is a book out there to help you write specifically for your genre, so definitely check that. The more information the better. There's also when you're writing and you get right into your writing, you're going to be switched on, like you're walking down the high street, you're away at the shops, you're waiting for a bus, and you get ideas. Now, I use the Google Keep app. Google Keep is for both iOS and Android, and it's just a note-taking, but there's many other note-taking apps, and it's a really good Google Keep or a note-taking app just to get your ideas out your head. When you wake up at 3 in the morning, you think, character A should be doing this, this and that, and I've now tied the last part of my book to the first part brilliantly, and you just write it down, and then the next day obviously update it in your computer, your journal, whatever it is that you're using. And I suppose it's the same as like having a diary. Having an app on your phone, you can use it as a diary to make notes about your characters, about the storyline, about the development, or if it's non-fiction, about the research or interviews that you need to conduct, etc. So always having like a note-taking app, or if you're old school, a notepad to keep it going. Now, as I said earlier on, a book is a big project, and one of the books I've been writing 15 years, and that's serious. That's 15 years. When I started writing this, I started it on a Mac PowerBook, and it was like a Mac laptop. It was about maybe 3 inches thick, a horrendous piece of kit, and now I'm writing it on a wee sort of netbook thing, and like that in itself, like the wee netbook, cheapest chips, £50-60. It's powerful enough to run word processing and basically nothing else. I run it Scrivener. It's and it's solely for writing. I don't use it for Facebook. I don't use it for social media, YouTube, playing games, anything. It is just powerful enough to run a word processing app like Scrivener or OpenWord, and I use it to write. Thing is fantastic is the size. It's a netbook, so it's only 11.6 inches screen size, and fantastic battery life. You're talking 8 to 10 hours. So for 50 quid, it's essentially a portable word processor and a really good tool for writing. You take it anywhere because it's small, it's lightweight, and it's not highly powered to do anything, so no distractions. Having passion will see you through. Now, earlier on I told you it was a big project, 15 years. I would amount it to climbing Everest. If you decide that you're going to climb Everest, you can achieve climbing Everest. But the reality is, you have to, just like a book, you have to evaluate the full thing and take it seriously. To climb Everest, you would have to get yourself physically fit. You would have to raise the money that you would require to get to Nepal, etc., etc. You would need to clear all the visas. You'd have to do your research. You would have to do lots of other mountains in that kind of region to see how you cope with it. It's a huge project over a good number of years, but if you go with a plan and you go with determination and passion, you will achieve it. It's the same with a book, writing a book, but all along you're going to be hit with excuses, and these excuses are going to come from yourself, from you and only you. You are the creator of the excuse. And they're going to seem legitimate every time because you're creating them and you know yourself, and they come from you. So that passion and that tenacity has to overcome the excuses, especially if a project's less than 15 years. For me, 15 years is a long time, as I say, because I just go in and sort of bash the bag. There's no technique involved. That's my writing style. Something like Health Made Simple took me a year. The book and media that I'm writing just now has took me about 8 months, and the first draft is finished. So things Again, they go at your time scale, but the fact of the matter is, doubt and excuses and all that sort of good stuff is going to come, and you need to be able to push past it, put it down, and the passion to push on through. Now, when you've pushed on through and you have finalised your first draft, you have finished the first book, this is where it just begins. So you probably, like any project that you've ever done, the first draft is good, but it's the first draft. It's usually your second, third, fourth draft that's the real deal. So you need to go back through it and cut out all the dead wood. Cutting out the dead wood, that's the things that, yeah, they don't need to be there. They don't add anything. They're mainly just to satisfy your ego. The next thing in your first draft when you're reading through is does it make sense to a lay person? If it's non-fiction or if it's science fiction, have you written it in a certain way that somebody reading it for the first time will understand your concepts? You're not missing things out that you understand, be it references to Star Wars or references to, something that people may not have that reference, but you've just assumed that they may have that reference. Then once you've got that worked out and you have your number of drafts, getting somebody else to edit it, to edit the words, the spelling, the grammar, to make sure it reads, getting someone else to read it, it's always great. And remember, if they give you constructive criticism, they're rejecting the ideas, they're not rejecting you as a person. Like my brother, who's an English teacher, read my fantasy book so far, and he was like, this is fucking horrendous in terms of your grammar, it's so hard to fucking read. And I'm like, at the minute I just want you to think about my ideas that I'm presenting. But the grammar can always be fixed, the spelling can always be fixed, but the ideas, this is what I'm trading on. I'm trading on ideas, and I need to get the ideas out of my head. Once they're out of my head, I can get an editor to fix them. And so getting that kind of good feedback, like my ideas are pretty good, as it says, but I really need help with my words. Now I know that from a professional point of view. So once you've got your book finished, things to consider, a cover, web presence, social media, getting an agent, getting it published. Is it print and demand? Is it traditional publishing? So that in itself is a huge world. Getting it published, getting it on a shelf. So just to take you from the start to the beginning, the start to the end, when it comes to writing, it's just a case of starting. And it's all about passion. Just don't delay. Don't listen anymore. This podcast is finishing. Get your ideas out. Get thinking. And get writing. You've been listening to Everything's Illusion, the podcast, where we question everything. Big Rob. Get writing. Check our sponsors. Click the adverts on our website. Make us some money. Cheers. And goodbye. Everything is an Illusion is brought to you by RobWallaceMedia.com, award-winning media. TheEnergeticMind.com, inspirational, motivational and thought-provoking art. And Health Made Simple. Buy today, change your life forever. healthmadesimple.info. Thank you, and remember, question everything.